Hi. Okay, more tiny house talk. As the songbird goes by, people are asking me what I'm doing to prepare to go off-grid and live in a tiny house. I'm currently in my big house, attached to city water and electric. What I'm doing to prepare? Well, I started with acquiring things that are essential for life, like I needed the ability to purify my own water and to cook. Another thing, these things I started acquiring I can use right now in this existing house, and I've been doing that to see how well they work. And they can be used in an emergency, hurricanes, anything like that. What I did, I wanted different ways to purify my water as well as to be able to cook. So I got a Berkey water filter that uses active charcoal for the filtration system. I also bought the filters for getting out fluoride and arsenic. The disadvantage to that method is that you do have to buy the filters, okay? But I'm confident with charcoal alone, you could make your own filtration system. It doesn't use electric, you just pour the water in and out it comes. I also have an electric water distiller. Now this is great because distillers will even handle getting out fluoride. You don't have to buy a filter, but it does use electric. It also produces some heat. And I'm here in the subtropics of South Florida, so yeah, it can heat the place up. Let's see, it takes 3 hours to distill over 3 liters of water. And when I use it, I'm using it like every other day, sometimes every day, if I'm soaking and sprouting beans or grains or something like that. If there was another person here, I'd be running it also every day, if not twice a day. So imagine this thing running for 3 hours straight, just to get out the 3 liters of water, okay? So you are going to use energy. Now what I have as an alternative in case I didn't have electric is a copper distiller. Now you can put this over an open flame, you could put it over a regular stove top, a hot plate, gas stove, propane, pretty much any heat source. I do consider the copper distiller the mother of the filtration systems because just like the electric distiller, it will get out fluoride, but with this copper, it has the added benefit of antimicrobial properties, which purifies in itself. Copper can also help prevent algae from growing in your water cistern. So I do continue to learn about different ways I can get water, from collecting it from rain, drilling a water well, and also harvesting it from the air through the existing humidity. Believe it or not, this can be done. The copper distiller is also really good because I could make my own medicine with essential oils, make my own perfumes, I can make my own alcohol. With alcohol, you can use it as a biofuel to heat your house, run your car. It's a fabulous solvent. I use it in crafting my perfumes because it blends the essential oils, and I don't like to use an isopropyl alcohol, which is a petroleum product. So the copper distiller is quite nice and very versatile with everything you can do with it. Let's see, what I'm also doing to prepare to go off-grid. I have acquired different things to cook with or on or in. For example, I have a really, really nice cast iron collection of pots, pans, Dutch ovens. And this can be put over an open fire, you can put it in an oven, you can put it on a stove top. Very rugged, will last you a lifetime. I've been using some of mine for many, many years. My granny died at 95. She had hers, using it my whole life, and had it well before I was born. And it's still being used to this day, by the way, even though she is now gone. I have acquired some hot plates to cook with, and I found them to do a fantastic job. I was able to fry food, get it brown and crisp. You could boil water, and I like that it doesn't take up all this room like a regular stovetop. I also got a toaster oven, which is about this big, plenty big. You can bake a chicken in. I've done cookies, cakes, cornbread, you know, it pretty much does everything my big oven will do. I have acquired a cast iron hibachi, and with it you can cook using wood or coal. I also have a stainless steel miniature rocket stove, which uses coal or wood or solid alcohol as well. I also got some crock pots. You can use those exactly like an oven, and it said you can even brown a chicken. Now, I have not accomplished this yet, but I am going to attempt it. I bought a 2-burner alcohol stove. It's a marine grade quality stainless steel, very well made, and you can use grain alcohol, denatured alcohol. Now, what I like about alcohol as a fuel source, I can make alcohol. I can make it out of grain, I can make it out of sugar, I can make it out of wood, I can make it out of paper. So this is great, because I'm not looking to go off-grid just to get on propane or get on natural gas. I would like the ability to make it or harvest it, find it, or something like that when it comes to an energy source to cook with. I also made a parabolic sun cooker out of a giant stainless steel salad bowl. And I've been tinkering around playing with that, and that's been fun and interesting, and there's a learning curve, but like with all cooking, you know, you have to make some adjustments. I also have a Coleman Camp cook stove, a 2-burner also. This particular stove runs on gasoline. Now, that is not a clean burning fuel, but I did buy this many, many years ago for hurricane emergencies. And at the time, my reasoning was that in a crisis, it might be easier to find gasoline than propane. I mean, that was my thinking, but I don't really know now, because in hurricanes, at least in my area, the gas stations will run out of gas right away, and you don't know when it's coming back. So some people are trapped in the area and they cannot leave because none of the gas stations have gas. Everyone's fueled up, they're in a panic, the shelves at the stores go bare right away, there's no food on them. So yeah. What else am I doing to prepare to go off-grid? Well, I'm giving myself a crash course in all sorts of things, but electric, AC versus DC, solar versus wind generators, solar towers, wind catchers, which can cool your home. Also passive solar strategies to both heat and cool the home as well. Also researching the most storm catastrophe, bomb shelter-like structures, you know, storm resistant, from tornadoes, earthquakes, hurricanes. I really love ferro cement structures because essentially they're bomb shelters and you don't have to worry about termites, carpenter ants, tornadoes, none of that. I also have a passionate interest in architecture, and I've been learning about different roof styles that fare the best in hurricanes. Gable roofs fare the worst. Hip roofs fare best, and flat parapet roofs with a little wall extending up past the roof line, those fare well when all done properly. But a ferro structure can be all encompassed like a shell with no attaching parts, so nothing to blow off, rip off, fall off, or whatever, right? So I really like the idea of that. Ferro structures are cement, but they can also be lightweight because you can do an extremely thin hull. And what gives them their rugged durability and strength is that there is mesh, not just rebar. So it's reinforced with both some rebar, but mesh. And that's a big part of the secret. I'm also shopping for property in areas I'm attracted to. And I like, you know, mild climates, but I really like a subtropical climate, so I do not mind heat. Some people consider South Florida's heat extreme. I do not. I mean, yes, we have high humidity, but that's okay. For me, it's not a big deal, and we just get like a little over 90-degree weather. I come from the Midwest where it wasn't unusual to have 100 degrees, 103 degrees, with extremely high humidity as well. I've also lived in a desert environment, and that can be deceptive. You don't always feel the intensity of the heat because of the lack of humidity, but you can dehydrate very easily, and you can die within hours in a desert setting without the proper hydration and shade. Also, you can die from hypothermia at night because it can get very cold. So I'm not attracted to extreme climates. But I can appreciate climates. I don't mind a place that has seasons. South Florida's seasonal change is very subtle. Southern California, it was more obvious, but still subtle. The Midwest was more obvious, and in the mountains is even more obvious, you know. Altitude can make a great difference on the climate. You know, the temperature. Let's see, I'm also researching different things like flood zones, sinkhole alley, you know, what are the common natural disasters in an area I'm considering living. Also, I'm looking into city ordinance, code, zoning, the laws, all of that for the tiny house thing. Yeah, that's pretty much it. And another thing is downsizing. I mean, getting rid of big furniture and all the unnecessary things, and downsizing on the wardrobe. I mean, I have way more than I need, but some of the downsizing is more challenging than a person might think. Once you actually get into it, you find you're attached to some of these things. So those are the things I'm doing. I'm also living tinier within my big house. Like, I have 1,260 square feet, but I am currently using about 600 or less of that square feet. Some of the rooms are really just storing stuff right now. My living room is quite giant at 15 feet by 16 feet, and it's really just working like a garage or a giant shed housing all these things. I am preparing my house to sell, and I'm finishing up my woman cave, which was a carport that's enclosed to be an interior room. So all of that stuff that's normally out there I have in my living room right now. So those are two very large rooms. The woman cave is 10 feet wide by 23 feet long. So these rooms really aren't being used, and some of the stuff that's being stored in my living room I can let go of, okay? So it's just really hogging up room right now. I also started working on only one little counter space in my kitchen. I have 30-inch counters on each side of my 36-inch sink, And I'm just using one side, and I have the Berkey filter there and the cutting board and some canisters to hold some food. And I'm just seeing what it would be like if I only had that much space, and I'm functioning just fine. I mean, yes, it is nice having the extra space, I won't lie, but really I'm doing everything I need to do. Also, let me say, when I bought the hot plate and I put the double hot plate burner on top of my stovetop, and I did that for like a couple of months straight. I never even needed to turn on the stovetop. And when have I used 5 burners? It has 5 burners. And I really cook real food from scratch. I take my cooking serious. I don't buy box foods, canned foods. I don't own a microwave. Wouldn't have a microwave as a gift. But these hot plates have worked just fine. And I love that if I get rid of a big stove, the range, in my tiny house, I mean, that's just that much more counter space, and I can have my little hot plate out, or my alcohol 2-burner stove, and it's about 18 inches by about 11 deep, and you can actually put that away in a drawer if you want. And also, this means where an oven, a giant oven would normally be, now I'm going to have tons of storage space, because I am not letting go of any of my cast iron collection or my earthenware, you know, I'm keeping it all. My Pyrex glass pans and lids, yes, they're coming with me. And I enjoy using them, okay? I think the part of downsizing to a tiny house and going off-grid, being self-sustaining, isn't about being uncomfortable. You want to have your needs met, and you can do this, and you can do it well, and you can do it affordably. But care and thought needs to go into the design of the house. I'm seeing people that are building tiny houses that I know they regret. Some of them look cute at first glance, but really when you get into it and how they function and all, they're not so practical, and it's awkward and odd. And some people just went way too tiny to where now they're just pawning their extra shit off on their friends and family to store for them while they're pretending, oh, they're living tiny now, or they've had to go and rent some storage unit somewhere to put all their crap in they can't fit in their tiny house but yet can't let go of, you know. So to me, that is not a successful tiny house move, okay? I am responsible for all of my belongings. I do not want to have to rely on someone else to watch them or have to call them when I need to go over and get some of my stuff. And I'm certainly not going to be paying someone to store my things in some sort of storage unit, you know. What I'm also doing is dozens and dozens and dozens of tiny house sketch designs. And I do everything to scale, and you can do it too. Just get some graph paper, and each little cube can represent 1 foot. Very easy. I've even gone as far as measuring all of my furniture, and in the past cut out little templates, and I could move things around, like, you know, like paper dolls, but with your house. But I did find a free software application on the internet called Sweet Home 3D, and you can do a walkthrough and look up and down and peek around corners. And this is very cool because I wanted to design a kitchen that you cannot see any dirty dishes if they're out on the counter or whatever from other parts of the house. And so I could design in this program and then like kind of move around the house and see that, yeah, that's an effective design. It was working really well. And so what I've also done, I started with a home design way smaller than I would really end up living in. But this was a good exercise to really hone in on what are the essentials. If I could only bring what I could fit in this tiny space, what would it be? And this is going to highlight some of the more important things in your life, okay? This can be very revealing, and you might surprise yourself with what you learn about yourself. you've known yourself your whole life, but you might not have really put much thought into these things that you have or take for granted and that sort of thing. But when it comes to having them taken away, or you have to let them go, you might be singing a different tune and have a newfound appreciation. And also some things you've been hanging on to, you might find you really don't want them, you don't use them, and you will not miss it if you let go of it. So what I did start really, really, really ridiculously tiny, and I'm just not that kind of minimalist. I'm not interested in just joining some sort of fad to go as tiny as possible because other people are trying that out. I want to be true to myself, but at the same time, I want to simplify my life. Also, with a smaller house, it means less maintenance, less cleaning. You can also get way nicer materials and high-end quality because, you know, you don't have like 3,000 square feet to decorate or build, you know. So, really, 400 square feet is pushing it for me. Okay, unless there are tall, tall ceilings, so I can take advantage of loft space and crawl space beneath, let's say, something built on a platform like deck, like a living area or your room or a bathroom or a kitchen or whatever. So 600 is far, far more comfortable, where it doesn't feel claustrophobic for me, and I can keep all the things that I want and are important to me, and I'm not willing to let go of right now. They suit me, my lifestyle, my interests, and they're things I use and enjoy, so I don't want to let them go. But I don't want to feel like I'm cramped in a place that's just ridiculous, because I've seen people's tiny homes where they just have this little path they could get through because they have all this stuff, and I know they want that stuff and they need it and they use it even. But again, I want my home to feel like a home and be inviting, and I want to hang out there, and I want to be able to entertain and have guests over, you know? So that wouldn't work for me. And I want a floor plan that feels open with some breathing room, and I like a shotgun design for cross ventilation, and I like the idea that within the room you can look out and see, you can look out and see that way, and you can even see the other way too, so all directions. You know, shotgun design with a narrow body has lots of perks when it comes to ventilation. I don't really like AC and ducts and direct air on me, and I've lived in this house without air conditioning for 10 years now. Some people are shocked by that, and they say, you can't do that in Florida. Well, apparently you can. But yeah, it's really uncomfortable. I don't have a shade canopy. I've got a closed floor plan. The window openings are tinier than they could be. Okay? I mean, this home with more care and thought could have been way more efficient, way more comfortable using passive solar strategies. But this is like, we're on the grid, people. They just block this shit out and stamp everything, and there you go. They just focus on getting as many houses in as they can. Okay, that's how they do it. They also want your house to be big. There's laws against going too tiny. And do remember, they tax you on the size of your home. So you can do the math on why they don't want you going too tiny. It's less revenue. I currently am paying $850 a year, but it's gone as high as almost $1,300 for my property taxes in a year. But it's never gone as low as $700. It was getting in the low 700s when my home was appraised at the lowest amount. And really what your cities do sometimes when they need more money, they just come in and artificially inflate the value of the homes and then charge them more that year for taxes. That's why taxes on your house go like this. Okay, up and down, up and down. It's all arbitrary. They just make shit up. I mean, I bought my house. They were asking $85,000. I got them down to $82,000, had them pay the closing. So I really paid like $78,500. Okay. And there was a time when my property taxes were almost $1,300. My property value was supposedly at $250,000. And then when the tax was the least amount, it was valued at $60,000. I also have homestead exemption, by the way, and we have two types. One is $25,000 deducted, one is $50,000. So I have the full-blown, deduction. So a big thing I look for in hidden costs, so to speak, when looking for new property is the property tax for that area. But again, it's so weird and flaky and arbitrary. It's not exact. And my neighbor across the street, her home is the exact same floor plan as mine. But she's paying $2,800 a year for her property taxes, and her lot is smaller. Okay, go figure. And my home is the one that has the upgrades inside, and the porcelain tile, and the stainless steel appliances. So whatever, okay? It's all a bunch of shit if you ask me, but this is how it is. Interesting history behind the shotgun house was that people started building them real narrow like that because they were taxing them on the width of their home. So these people were like, ha ha, I built a skinny house, yeah, it might be a mile long, but it's only 10 feet wide. So that's how they did it. You'll also notice some homes like in the UK where the upper floor overhangs the bottom floor, and that just feels wrong because it feels top heavy. It's just architecturally that bothers me. But the reason they did it was because they were charging they're basing the property tax on the ground floor square footage. So they did the big overhang upstairs to get more square footage in without being charged. So people, they're always looking for the tricks. That's what some of the tiny house people are doing. They're going mobile to get around high property tax on the house. People that do mobile homes sometimes aren't really taxed so much on the house itself, but the land, okay? But as soon as those wheels come off of that house, it's permanent now. And now you will be subjected to higher property tax because it's a permanent house. Okay, so that is what I'm doing to prepare to go off-grid in a tiny house. I'm acquiring the things I need, I'm using them now, I'm seeing how effective they are, I'm learning as much as I can about my options. When I go down to get a wind generator or some solar panels, I want to know already what my needs are. I have also figured out how to calculate the wattage of my appliances, and so this is important. Like, I will know what I need. And then of course, I will consider the expertise or the sales pitch of the salesperson. That can be important. They can know things, they should know things, that's their business, but sometimes people are just pushing shit on you don't really need, or it's overkill, or maybe it won't meet your needs, but you're paying an overinflated price. I want to know what my needs really are, and I want to go into it knowing what kind of solar arrayment I need, or wind generator, or whatever. I'm also a huge fan of the solar power, which can generate electric by putting a turbine in the tower itself. And as the hot air rises, it spins it. Love it, love it, love it. That design is being worked into my tiny house, as well as a cupola, which is architecturally interesting on top with a little dome and windows around, but it's also really going to be a wind catcher. And cool air condenses and falls, and that will come into the home. And then the solar tower creates a suction and a vortex pulling air through the house as a cooling system. That combined with my open floor plan and shotgun design going both ways, everything's going to be fine with comfort. People have asked me about the situation with mold. I mean, I live in South Florida. It's a tropical environment. They call it subtropical because in the winter we have our drought. But outside of that, it's just rain, rain, rain all the time, you know. Mold. One thing that will prevent mold is bright light. UV will kill mold, but it doesn't even need to be direct light. So long as it's bright light, it will not allow the mold to grow. Another thing is ventilation. So a bathroom and a kitchen, you know, with water really does need windows, okay, and good ventilation. And I have not had a problem with mold in my house at all, except, and it wasn't in the bathroom. It was actually in what I call my dark room, and it faces the west, which gets a lot of bright light and really heats up. So I keep the blinds and the curtains closed so it doesn't heat up. And in doing that, there was some mold that did grow in that room, and it seemed very attracted to wood and leather. Yeah, I didn't want really anything to do with plastic. So one thing that can kill mold is vinegar. So you do not have to resort to chemicals, okay? And you can give it a little sun bath and let the UV take over from there. But you can prevent mold from growing even without having air conditioning in your house. You just do need that ventilation and that light. So I am going to be designing architecturally with something called daylighting, and this is when you use natural sunlight to illuminate the area and the workspaces, so you do not have to turn on any electric lights in the day. This is a very intelligent way to design, and this is how most all places used to build their homes and businesses, because, well, they had to see in the daylight. Who wants to light a candle when you could have a window? There's also something called a light shelf, and that's when light bounces off of a nearby ledge, whether it's a counter or the wall or the ceiling, and if it's a light color, it illuminates it even more. But the light literally can bounce. I've seen where, like, they had a light-colored ceiling and these little slit windows up high, and it was beaming off of the ceiling, coming back down, illuminating the area, and it was very effective. In fact, it can be done so effective it can cause a glare, especially with like a glossy, shiny material. Then it's just like, you know, so. Yeah, the color choices matter, and it's very intriguing with light, how light can, you know, be absorbed or reflected by a color. Black and dark colors just suck it up and it almost disappears. So you would literally find, if you took a lamp and you painted your room black, it would be so much more difficult for you to read by that lamp than if you painted that same room with that same lamp white. Okay? There is something in the black just sucks it up. Again, it's mysterious to me. I'm not exactly sure how that works, but that's how it works. And it also retains heat, dark colors. And cool colors keep, well, light colors keep cooler. Okay, so that's that. What else am I doing to prepare to go off-grid? Well, I'm just learning a lot of the rules so I can break some of them. I mean, I'd like to do this totally legally, but what I'm seeing with a lot of tiny housers, hardly any of them are truly, 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 truly legal. Okay? The people that are legal tend to be tiny housers living on their own property or a friend's property, and it's placed there as an accessory dwelling to an existing structure that is legal. That's how some people are doing it. But really, outside of that, people are just going from driveway to driveway and having to rely on the kindness and generosity of other people until a neighbor complains or someone gets annoyed with them and asks them to leave or whatever, you know. And I don't want to live like that. The only reason I considered putting a home on wheels was to skirt around high property tax. I mean, you will never see that money again. It's not an investment, okay? It is gone, forever gone. And you don't pay a property tax for 2 years, you can lose your property. It's happened. They don't care if you're a little old man in a diaper and served your country and had your legs blown off and some war back in the day. They don't give a shit. They'll take your house, okay? That's America, right? Yeah. Greatest country in the world. Alright. So here we are living in the United States of arrogance, bragging about how great we are, but yet Uncle Sam insists that you need X amount of space to live in. I am currently taking up about 1 or 2 square feet. When I'm sleeping, I take up the most square footage. I don't need 1,000 square feet. It is a goddamn shame. People are like criminals because their house is too small, too tiny. Okay? I understand, like, building codes are there for safety. Structures need to be sound and solid, okay? But it's going overboard with dictating that it needs to be a McMansion, okay? When I called the city official, he was the one I was supposed to talk to who knew everything, running everything. He couldn't even tell me the smallest structure I could build. He thought and was guessing it was 800 square feet, but he wasn't sure, but he thought it might be 1,000, and I didn't know, and I'm like, this is the guy that I'm supposed to talk to, you know. So, yeah, really annoying, really annoying. Used to in my area, you could build a 200 square foot or smaller structure in your yard, like a shed, and you would not need a permit at all. But when I asked him now, 15 years later, after purchasing this home, the smallest structure I could build without a permit, he said, you can have a cardboard box. Okay? So any little structure you build in my area, you need permission. And do notice the root word of permission is permit. To me, it's ridiculous to need permission for any little thing I want to do on my property. I mean, yes, it needs to be structurally sound and not a hazard or a flying projectile in a hurricane. I get it, and I respect that. But again, coming back to the size thing, who the fuck are they to tell us how much space we need or don't need? This is ridiculous. American homes are bigger and bigger than they ever were, but families are getting smaller and smaller. And what we call a small house here in other parts of the world is considered big. Okay? It's all relative, and our perspectives vary depending on how we were raised, what we've known, you know, what we're conditioned to. So I grew up with space, plenty of space. I mean, I was a military brat and lived between divorced parents going back and forth, so I've lived in a lot of different houses, okay? And I've lived around the country. I lived out of the country for a summer. I've been to other countries. I have been in structures galore. And how much space do you really need? Let's talk about the kitchen. I love to cook, okay? I take my cooking serious. I soak and sprout. I make cheese. I make yogurt, okay? And I have worked in a very big kitchen, and it was all gourmet and beautiful at first glance, but it was not very efficient. You spent a lot of time walking here, walking there, and getting everything. There was something very efficient in what they call the classic triangle, where in just a few steps, refrigerator, sink, stove, cabinet, you know, it's all right there. I have a galley kitchen. It's 10 wide, and then, well, it's 8 feet long and 10 wide. So if you walk through the galley, it's 8 feet, right? And it's really a fantastic size. And if it were a little tighter, it could even be more efficient. And if it were a horseshoe shape, even more so, because then you have the inn now enclosed for yet more storage and counter. I love the galley style, and I love the horseshoe. So I'm definitely going to implement that in my tiny house. And there is 6 feet of space between my counters and my galley kitchen. There could be only 3 feet with plenty of room. I only am 15 inches wide. That means another small person could be working there, or a bigger person would be fine. You just excuse me, pardon me, and you make it happen, right? So that's what I'm doing, and bigger is not always more efficient or better. Sometimes more is just more. It's more to maintain, it costs more, they're going to tax you more, it hogs up more room, okay? So tiny can be very efficient and charming, cozy. I love the idea of the quaintness of everything, but yet at the same time having space to breathe and move around, okay? So thanks for watching my video on preparing to go off the utility grid in a tiny house, and please share some of your own ideas or thoughts, experience of friends or people you've heard of, whatever you want to share. So thank you, and bye-bye.